Bucks star Damian Lillard has suffered a torn Achilles and will miss the rest of the playoffs.
Damian Lillard has suffered a left Achilles tendon tear. His season is over, obviously, and just a devastating blow for him, for this Bucks organization.
The Milwaukee Bucks nightmare just got so much worse. I mean, going into the playoffs, there are questions about the future of the Milwaukee Bucks, and it just seems like anything that could have happened to make things worse actually did end up happening. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to get the latest NBA news to your device. And now that we get all of that out of the way, cue the intro. We've been incredible to start the playoffs, hitting on 3 picks to make over $400, and it's gonna get better from here. Use my promo code microphone to get $50 when you make a play of $5 or more on Prize Picks, or just click on the link in the description down below and get my picks through my Instagram at TheFlightMike. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? We uploaded a video on Giannis Antetokounmpo's future a few days ago, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't open this video with a quote that we mention in almost every video. For those of you guys that don't know or haven't been following the storyline, a few years ago after Giannis Antetokounmpo won a NBA championship, he mentioned in an article with GQ magazine that one challenge was to bring a championship here, and we did. It was very hard, but we did. Very, very hard. I just love challenges. What's the next challenge? Well, the next challenge might not be here. Me and my family chose to stay in this city that we all love and has taken care of us. For now. In 2 years, that might change. I'm being totally honest with you. I'm always honest. I love the city. I love this community. I want to help as much as possible. In the past, Giannis has used his leverage over the Milwaukee Bucks to pressure them into making positive changes for the roster. The year prior, he was able to successfully pressure the Milwaukee Bucks into making a trade for Jrue Holiday. The result was the Milwaukee Bucks winning an NBA championship. But there have been instances where Giannis Antetokounmpo's influence over the Milwaukee Bucks was a little toxic and actually ended up shooting him in the foot. For example, after the 2023 NBA playoffs, when the Milwaukee Bucks lost to the 8th seeded Miami Heat. Now granted, in this series, Giannis Antetokounmpo was injured. He was only able to play in 3 games, and playoff Jimmy was going crazy in this series. I mean, the guy averaged 37.6 points per game to go with 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1.8 steals per game. And following this series, the Milwaukee Bucks felt tremendous pressure to make some change in order for them to show Giannis that they felt the urgency in making sure there was a contender around him. So that offseason, the Bucks made 2 huge changes. One, they fired the coach that was their head coach during their championship run, Mike Budenholzer. And honestly, in hindsight, this didn't look like the greatest firing because we found out that Coach Bud actually tragically lost his brother in a car accident during the Miami Heat series versus the Bucks. So obviously that must have taken an emotional toll on him and definitely affected his ability to coach. But on top of that, the Bucks would make their biggest change that offseason. And what could have potentially been one of the biggest mistakes for the Milwaukee Bucks, they agreed to a trade with the Portland Trail Blazers for Damian Lillard, trading away Jrue Holiday, Milwaukee's unprotected 2029 draft pick, and the right to swap picks in 2028 and 2030. At that point, Giannis Antetokounmpo is either not going to be a member of the Bucks or is going to be 35 years old. So it's fair to say that those are very valuable draft picks. But that's not all. Even before that trade was made, the Milwaukee Bucks consulted Giannis Antetokounmpo on who should be their next head coach, and he approved of Adrian Griffin. But immediately there was drama for the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks made the brilliant decision of hiring Damian Lillard's longtime head coach in the NBA, Terry Stotts, as an assistant. But even before the season could start, Terry Stotts wasn't able to get along with Adrian Griffin, which resulted in Stotts stepping down. And it would get way worse from there. In the middle of the 2023-24 season, after leading the Milwaukee Bucks to a 30-13 record, Adrian Griffin would step down. And the Bucks would hire Doc Rivers as their head coach in a move where Doc Rivers, for some reason, wasn't happy about taking this job.
I'll be honest, I told our owners when they called, I said, I don't understand why you're doing this. One of the things they said was, well, it doesn't matter. We've done it now, and we want you.
And throughout his first season with the Milwaukee Bucks, Doc Rivers would go viral for playing Captain Hindsight. I mean, after implying implying that the Bucks made a mistake hiring him. He would also say that he tried to influence Kawhi Leonard's perspective on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I even brought it up to Kawhi. Are you sure? I think Shai's going to be an amazing player. It may take a year or two, but I think you're underestimating how good Shai's going to be. And then when Giannis Antetokounmpo would get injured at the end of the season, Doc Rivers would say that he wanted to take Giannis out of the game, but he didn't because the medical team said that he was okay. He kept asking to go back in and the trainer said he was fine, but I wish I had just said no, honestly. And he would even throw the travel crew under the bus towards the end of the season. But in Doc Rivers' defense, he was hired as the head coach in the middle of the season, and the Milwaukee Bucks just couldn't stay healthy towards the end of the season. So the hope was that after a full off season, everybody would be able to stay healthy, come back, and try to make a run in the Eastern Conference. Even though, if fully healthy, the Milwaukee Bucks as a unit just didn't make sense anymore. I mean, during the Drew Holiday era, the biggest issue that the Bucks had was their offensive rating, and it wasn't even that bad. The Bucks ranked 12th in the NBA in offensive rating, but 4th in the NBA in defensive rating. So I don't really understand what the purpose of the Damian Lillard trade was, other than to prove to Giannis and Antetokounmpo that they were serious about contending and would try other things to make it work. But bringing in Damian Lillard was a horrific mistake because during the Drew Holiday era, the Bucks ranked top 5 in net rating. And you can make an argument that if they were fully healthy going into the playoffs, then they could have potentially made a run in the Eastern Conference. But you come in and you change everything. You hire a brand new head coach in Adrian Griffin, but then you say defense is your biggest problem, which was one of your strengths when Drew Holiday and Mike Budenholzer were on your team. You fire him and try to hire a head coach that I suppose is known for his defense, Doc Rivers, but you still finish the season with a defensive rating of 19, an offensive rating of 6, and a net rating of 12. So this season was once again a make or break season for the Milwaukee Bucks, and it would just get worse from there. The Bucks would finish the season 11th in the NBA in net rating, 12th in the NBA in defensive rating, and 11th in the NBA in offensive rating. And once again, they would attempt to tinker to try to make things work. Chris Middleton wasn't the same player that he once was, so they traded Chris Middleton and AJ Johnson to the Washington Wizards in order to get Kyle Kuzma in return. And that was a horrific mistake. As you saw from game 1, Kyle Kuzma was just out there doing cardio. Damian Lillard would get diagnosed with a deep vein thrombosis and would shock the world when he announced that he would return 3 weeks later in time for the playoffs. And this proved to be a very unfortunate, horrific mistake, as Damian Lillard would tear his Achilles tendon in game 4 against the Indiana Pacers, and this could forever alter Damian Lillard's career and now essentially forces Giannis Antetokounmpo out of Milwaukee. To Giannis's credit, he's been incredible in the playoff games that he's played. He's averaging 30.4 points, 14.4 rebounds, and 5.6 assists in his last 9 playoff games. But that aside, taking the human element and the empathy we feel for Damian Lillard tearing his Achilles tendon, from the basketball perspective, the Milwaukee Bucks are screwed. Damian Lillard is under a supermax contract for the entire next year and has a player option for the 2026 to 27 season, which when you're getting paid $58 million and you're coming off of an Achilles tear and you're going into your age 36 season, there is no way that Damian Lillard isn't opting into that contract, which means that Dame isn't going to be a free agent until the 2027 offseason. And until then, the Milwaukee Bucks are stuck paying him supermax money. It is impossible to contend in the NBA whenever you're paying a supermax player and that supermax player is either not fulfilling his potential or isn't playing at all. And that's the situation that the Milwaukee Bucks are currently in with Damian Lillard. And you can just tell at the end of game 4, Giannis Antetokounmpo went viral for just sitting there at the bench and looking like he's really pondering his future. I mean, there's no way we could ever tell you what's actually going on in this man's mind. But Giannis Antetokounmpo's wishes aside, the Milwaukee Bucks don't really have a choice here but to trade Giannis. I understand what you guys might be thinking. On one hand, stars like Giannis Antetokounmpo don't come around frequently for the Milwaukee Bucks. As a matter of fact, the last time the Bucks had a superstar like Giannis Antetokounmpo, it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who won them a championship with Oscar Robertson almost 40 years ago and then left to the Los Angeles Lakers. But in this case, if the Bucks can get a significant return for Giannis Antetokounmpo, they can set themselves up very well. And honestly, they don't really have a choice, because what are the alternatives? Holding on to Giannis Antetokounmpo, not even making it to the playoffs, being completely depleted of your assets for the foreseeable future? The Bucks don't have draft control until 2031. In 2026, as a result of the Drew Holiday trade, New Orleans has the right to swap picks with them. In 2027, they lose their pick to New Orleans as well. In 2028 to 2030, Portland gets their draft pick, or the right to swap draft picks. So the Bucks don't have a draft pick until 2031. They have an aging superstar that is not going to be playing for the 2025 to 26 season, and you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has been vocal in the past about potentially leaving the team. Now, the good news for the Bucks is they have Giannis under contract until the 2026 to 27 season, and following that, Giannis has a player option in his age 33 season that he might opt out of, but I'm not necessarily sure. He's set to make $62 million that year, so that's a lot of money to potentially opt out from, but if he gets traded to a team that's willing to pay him even more, then he could potentially opt out of that. So if that's the case, what are the most likely teams to trade for Giannis? Well, of course, in our last video, we talked about the Los Angeles Lakers. I like throwing them up as a contender primarily because they do have some good players they could trade and some very valuable draft capital that they could also trade in return for Giannis Antetokounmpo.
If I'm Giannis and I don't want to go back to Milwaukee, where would you want? Maybe play with Luka?
Lakers? Come on, Bruce. How long you been at the network, Bruce?
I'm just saying.
Come on.
Do I have a second?
I think Austin Reeves is one of the most valuable contracts in the NBA. You also put in Rui Hachimura and Dalton Knecht to the Milwaukee Bucks, but there are much better teams that could offer significantly more for a player like Giannis Antetokounmpo that could potentially catapult themselves into championship contention as a result of it. The Houston Rockets have been in the market for a superstar for quite some time. They've been linked to Kevin Durant, and they have the depth to make it work. Could you imagine a front court of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Alperen Şengün? And Bill Simmons even breaks it down here.
Houston, I think, has to be a consideration, because Houston could make a 4-for-1 with picks, get Giannis, keep a couple guys, and be really good, because they have too many guys, as you mentioned. They also have a load of picks, including a couple really nice Phoenix picks.
The Rockets could potentially trade Reed Shepherd, Cam Whitmore, one of Phoenix's future first-round picks in order to make this happen. Maybe the New York Knicks want to potentially trade for Giannis. The New York Knicks could trade Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Miles McBride alongside a future first-round pick and a future second-round pick in order to get Giannis in return. The Bucks would get significant two-way players that they could also reroute in additional trades if they truly want to enter a rebuild. And of course, the Brooklyn Nets come to mind, although I don't know if Giannis would want to go to a rebuilding team. The Nets could potentially make the best offer out of any of these teams due to the amount of assets they have from the Mikal Bridges trade and the fact that they possess Milwaukee's first round pick in 2025, which isn't all that valuable. But to give you an idea, the Brooklyn Nets have 4 first round picks in the 2025 NBA draft, and there's no way that they're going to use all of those picks on players. And that's just this year. The Brooklyn Nets have 31 draft picks following the D'Angelo Russell trade alone. There are also other teams that have tremendous assets as well, like the San Antonio Spurs, but I don't think Giannis makes sense with Victor Wembanyama, and of course the OKC Thunder, but they have a nice young core that is growing together, and I don't know if they're going to want to sabotage that. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think the future of the Bucks is going to look like? Do you think Giannis Antetokounmpo ends up staying? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.